Hi, I'm Justin.
Also, I hate the way my voice sounds, so if you can do whatever Photoshop does to voices, make me sound awesome.
And this is my lovely friend,
The beauty in the eyes of the beholder, and it's just about getting into the seat of being the beholder.
Hayley.
I don't think you have to be particularly perceptive. I just think you have to look up.
This podcast is mostly just her telling me stories.
If you expose yourself to the possibility that this might be really awkward, there can be something just really cool on the other side of it.
She thinks that her life and way of looking at things are
Oh, I was kind of waiting on you. I thought you were getting your stuff ready. You're waiting on me?
pretty normal.
You got to edit out all the misinformation about the Amish.
Maybe you can relate.
I would like a chance to re-sing the Amish Paradise.
If you want lighthearted stories
All right, you want to talk about goats?
and stream of consciousness,
I just woke up and needed some friends, and so I bought them.
then you're going to like the Sunny Side Up podcast.
Sunny side up, sunny side up, sunny side up, sunny side up.
So, if you're at all like me, you may feel that you're living in a world that can be a bit overwhelming and confusing at times. I'm also a huge fan of podcasts, documentaries, docudramas, stories, and of just information in general. Between all of that and the social media and news, sometimes our brains can feel like they're on overload. Hayley and I hope that this podcast can be something of an antidote to all of that. Like little jello shots of joy and distraction. None of it is too serious or really too informative. Mostly it's just two friends who have conversational chemistry talking about whatever enters the minds of relatively ADHD people. We hope you enjoy.
Do you like to cook?
No, my last name would belie that, but it would be, that is a bad assumption to make. I do not like to cook.
Okay.
I'm one of those weirdos, how people get excited about home-cooked meals. They're like, wow, I get to eat a home-cooked meal. It's such a treat. I'm so sick of eating out. I never feel that way. I'm always like, I get to eat out. This is fantastic.
Okay, I do feel that. And it's probably a testament to how good the food around you is. Because if you were eating out every meal where I live, then it's we're on day 3 of this and we've exhausted all the good options.
Yeah.
So it's back to the kitchen. The delicious home-cooked meal, would you feel the same way if someone else was home cooking it for you?
If other people want to cook...
If your grandmother was here cooking you a home-cooked meal, would you still prefer eating out at a restaurant?
I don't even know that I prefer it. I just will, because I love, when someone puts their heart and soul into a great home-cooked meal, I just appreciate food. That's full
true.
Hard stop.
Yeah.
And then, but for some reason, I think what it is, gosh, now I'm thinking about this, as a 7 on the Enneagram, it must be my little adventure heart. It's you're going out and you're exploring and anything could happen. Right?
I love that because as a 6, I feel a little bit I can't waste this experience. I better get the same thing I get every time because I know it's good.
Yeah, well...
That Enneagram, man, it's everywhere.
Yeah, it is. It's not as extensive, of course, as the biscuit and turtle.
What pastry are
what
you?
Pastry are you? Yeah.
Test.
But it's close and it's good. But no, I don't know why it is. But yeah, there's something about the adventure of it, what could happen. Even if I do lock in, at this restaurant I get this, at this restaurant I get that. It's just something about it. It's even if I'm going to get it to take it back. I don't like Uber Eats.
Where they deliver it to you?
Right.
I mean, I can't speak to it because, again, I live in a swamp, so I've never had that luxury. But why don't you like that?
Because part of the excitement is going out and procuring it. The best case scenario is you eat at the place, right?
Okay.
You go into the place, you have the experience. Even if it's except for fast food, that's who knows? For people watching, fast food is great, right? Because, certain fast food places have amazing people watching, which I'm a professional people watcher. So there is that aspect. But in general, any place that's slightly above McDonald's, Chipotle, for instance, is a great place to sit. People watch, you're eating the food, and then you take back what you don't eat. That's all great. But for a restaurant, the joy of it isn't the food by itself. It's it's the ambiance. I'm in my table with the people I'm with, and I'm looking across and I'm trying to imagine like what all of them, like what is their life, what's that situation? Like you'll see a couple over there and they don't belong together. You're creating that story of like, what in the world are they doing? How's their life going? Like you're telling you this is normal, right? You tell yourself stories about people?
This is exactly why I don't like going into restaurants because I don't want other people looking at me while I'm just trying to get my dinner. I like to just get it and go home where I can kick back with the people that I'm having dinner with and enjoy myself there. So the reasons that you enjoy going to the restaurant are the reasons why I enjoy
I'm watching you
the
every
takeout.
bite. I'm just like staring just
Straight
across.
through.
Yeah.
Did
I'm
I
like,
dress
what?
nicely enough to come to this restaurant?
That's right. Or I
answer
might
is
be
no.
looking at your leg, which right now it looks like...
God, looks like something off CSI, right?
It looks like somebody's been abusing you.
That's why I came in and immediately announced what happened so that you wouldn't contact authorities and be concerned. But no, it's just a rooster.
No, it is domestic violence, but not from a romantic partner.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you got to be careful with roosters, and I just learned that the hard way. You should have, like, profusely bleeding in my backyard, and he just looked so confused at me, like, what did I just do? He didn't even know his own abilities. It's like it happened before he even knew what he was doing. And he still looks at me kind of sheepishly, like he's afraid that's going to come out again.
Yeah,
like Hulk.
Ooh, like the Hulk, yes.
Just taking over him. So I won't turn my back to him because that seems to be a trigger. The issue would be completely resolved if we would just trim his spurs, but I'm just a little squeamish about trimming other creatures' toenails. Children, pets, whatever. We'll get there.
Yeah,
we're going to have to. If he did that to a child,
it'd be bad.
my homeowner's insurance would have to handle it.
Yeah. Well, and I think this kind of goes to, like, we love to give women a hard time, and rightfully so. You guys earn all of the talk about hormones driving your life. But let's not forget, testosterone is a hell of a drug.
Oh my gosh, do you want to talk about it? Because I've done nothing but deep dive about hormones for the past 3 or 4 months.
Is this because you turned 40?
No, it's because my kid has some sort of adrenal gland issue going on. And adrenal glands are like probiotics, where those things were kind of new on the medical scene in 2014 or whatever. The adrenal gland hasn't really been operated on and closely studied. It's becoming more of a discussion, but still not a ton of information out there.
Right.
Like I'm a pioneer in this land.
Yes,
buddy.
you are.
And I
see your bonnet and I see your little wagon.
It feels like that, okay? But the adrenal gland works with your pituitary gland in your brain and the hypothalamus, and they've got this little system, and each one creates hormones that tells the other one how many hormones to make, and they've got this little triangular trade going on, and they're so vascular, like everything they make is going straight into your bloodstream all over your body, and it impacts absolutely every system.
Wow.
And the adrenal gland manufactures the sex hormones also.
Okay.
So that's
sex
where it's
meaning like
the
which one you are?
testosterone and the estrogen, of that, and all their little subsidiary hormones. It's all coming from the adrenal gland.
Nice.
So where we are looking out, because you can find articles for the past several years that are like, we have lessened the degree of testosterone in our men, and it's because our lifestyles don't have enough sunlight and hard exercise. And you've got these like man shaming articles that are telling you to get your butt up and move so that you can.
Article.
I mean, right.
Come on.
Right. It's
hard enough
like,
to
if
be
you
a
were more of
man.
a caveman, you'd be feeling better right now, which may or may not be true. But what I've identified is that our adrenal glands are doing something wonky, and we're having a hard time putting our finger on exactly what it is.
So this is as in...
I think societally...
That was my question. Is that like we as in like your household specifically have messed up adrenal glands?
Apparently, but also as a society.
You're seeing it not just a micro, but more of a macro level.
Yeah, because while I was like trying to identify what our issues are, I'm seeing these studies, and like, I'm not making this up. Something I read. Like the National Institutes of Health will put out these cases, and you can kind of read and see. There was a study that they did, and the participants were all people with subclinical cortisol issues. So it's all adrenal gland related. 30% of them had been diagnosed with bipolar or depression or anxiety disorders.
Okay, wow.
In the general population, I think the number is around 5%. So when you take this sampling, and it wasn't even specifically about that, but when 30% of them, you're like, okay, well, there's obviously a correlation.
Yeah.
We need to get to the bottom of this. So the point at the end of that study, they just said we really need clinicians, how do you pronounce that?
Clinicians.
Diagnosticians who make these diagnoses of mental health findings to look for a medical issue.
Wow.
Don't stop at just the mental health, but refer them to a medical professional, because we think that in a lot of these instances there's an underpinning. And this would be true of dudes who do crazy things because their testosterone levels are wonky.
Yeah.
But so many women who are complaining about things like fatigue and fibromyalgia, and they're overcompensating with caffeine and everything else to try to get to what they feel like should be. Man, if you measure their cortisol, a lot of times you can be like, okay, there is truly like a medical issue. And I think that we're going to find that rather than having a mental health epidemic in this country for the past 30 or 40 years where it's just kicked up all of a sudden, we're going to realize something we're doing has been impacting our adrenal gland. We just didn't realize that like there is a medical, and it might be diet-based. It's probably diet-based.
Right.
Or environmentally something or other.
Okay.
Or maybe it's the vaccines that we get as boosters when we're kids or whatever, and it may not. Maybe it's the kids that you have that are reaping the benefits. So it's like because our parents were the first generation to really get inoculated en masse, and so their kids.
I feel like we should go there on vaccines, like wide open. Like, are you anti-vax?
I'm not anti-vax, but I'm not pro all vaccines.
Okay.
Like, I still kind of monitor what I put in my body, but I'm super happy to not have smallpox right now.
True.
Although, biting us in the ass, because here comes monkeypox. It's going to get everybody that didn't get a smallpox vaccine. It's not even our fault. Like, what do we do about this?
I don't know.
Do we still have smallpox vaccines somewhere?
The thing that I'm doing is I've sworn off monkey meat. I'm just like, that's it. It's a hard no for me.
Dude, look. It's not even just exposure to monkeys anymore.
Wait, what?
I think what's spreading now is they're like, okay, we think it's sexually transmitted as well as...
No, well,
like there's all different types.
I'm not sure this will make it in, but it's starting in these orgies. Like,
what?
No, I wish I was making this up, and this is not like an anti-gay rant, so I hope anybody...
No, I'm just kind of wondering if I'm going to meet anybody with monkeypox, because I'm immediately going to have some preconceived notions about the quality of fun that they have.
Right. Well, I'm not hitting on the quality of their fun. I'm just saying...
It's different from the fun that...
Yeah. The type of fun. We're not rating the quality. It may be a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. You're right.
But supposedly, like, they were saying in England, they traced, like, the whole thing back to this big orgy, and this was not a mixed crowd. This was all men. It was men and men.
I had read that they were saying it was coming from homosexual circles, but...
Right.
Not because they were gay. It just happened to be that was what was at the place where it was.
Right.
So the question is it truly sexually transmitted, or was it just close quarters where the exchange of bodily fluids is just going to happen?
Amounts.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it may not necessarily. Anyway, we're at the beginning of this. We'll give it a couple weeks before we Google ourselves to a conclusion about that.
Yeah.
But I just thought, holy smokes, it's that time whenever being well vaccinated is going to come back to haunt us. I think it came back to haunt me 2-3 weeks ago, because I'm pretty sure that I had COVID.
Yeah.
And nobody else around me got it, but it's because they all had it in January. And I was like, well, y'all should have got this booster that I just got. And then when my booster wore off, I got the COVID that they'd already had.
Yeah.
Whoopsie.
This goes back to my great theory of you don't get to fool nature.
Right.
Right. It's kind of, it's a long, complex theory, but basically the idea is everybody pays and everybody plays. You
can run, but you can't hide.
It's you can run, but you can't hide. It doesn't really. This is not the time or the place to go into my crazy theories on life, but that is definitely one of them.
It's okay to tell people that you lick the grocery store shopping cart handles.
That's totally fine. Yeah. At the height of the pandemic, Ollie is freaking out, wearing her mask, and putting what's the stuff you put in your hands? Sanitizer. Which I despise sanitizer with all my heart, mind, and soul.
Evidenced by the fact that you had to hesitate on the name of the
I hate sanitizer. No, that's just my brain. My brain doesn't work well. But sanitizer, on everything. So this is like, somewhere in 2020. And just to show her how like unfazed I was by all of this nonsense, we go to the grocery store and I lick an unclean shopping handle cart.
It's not COVID that I would be afraid of with that. It's stomach virus and sinus infections and everything else that comes. Because there was a period of time where I could go, every time I would make a big shopping trip, I would, there was a certain time of year I would go and I would get the flu every time. And I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And they have a flu shot for that. But instead I would just be like, no, I'm just going to knock it out with this big shopping trip to Walmart and I'll cope the same way I always do. But
yeah. Well, I think it's one of the upsides of being raised in a cult is that I didn't get any shots.
I would subscribe to that podcast, by the way. The upsides to being raised in a cult.
Don't worry. It's coming. It's absolutely. Hello, lovely friends. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And it would mean the world if you would tell other people about this podcast and maybe even spam your social media accounts with just how much you're enjoying it. If you are, of course. Also, commenting and rating us on whatever platform you're downloading or streaming from is incredibly helpful to a little startup podcast like this one. On the other hand, if you are dissatisfied with your listening experience, please leave all of that hate on someone else's podcast. Just maybe to confuse them a little bit, right? But most of all, we hope you keep looking up and looking for the sunny side of life.